Hi everyone, my name is Muhammad Syafiq Benkero Anwar, BS17110130, and now I will be presenting the answer for final test ST01003 for question 5. So this is the question given. From this question, we can see that there are 6 UMS female students from 3 states: Sarawak, Sabah and Terengganu. Each of UMS female students from each state have their own body height. So his research question, whether the body height of student related to the states. So from his research, I will suggest him to do statistical test, one-way ANOVA test, because to test more than 2 groups for a factor. From this test, we want to test the group, meaning state Sarawak, Sabah and Terengganu for a factor. Factor is body height of female UMS student. On the other hand, to test interaction among group for a factor. So I have correct his research question. Does body height meter of female UMS student is differ with state from? So the experimental design for this test, variable body height meter of female UMS students states: experimental unit body height meter, replicate 6 female UMS students for each states, sample female UMS student. Hypothesis for this test, hypothesis null, there is no interaction of states from on body height meter of female UMS students. Hypothesis alternative, there is an interaction of state from on body height meter of female UMS students. Data type, body height scale, state from nominal. And I have set this test with alpha 0.05. So this is the tabulate. This is the data that I have tabulate in the table. There is 3 column which are ID, height and state. So this is the box plots between state and height among UMS female student. So SB represents Sabah, SW represents Sarawak and TG represent Terengganu. So this is the normality test which is Shapiro test for 3 data which are height from Sarawak students, height from Sabah student and height from Terengganu students. As we can see here, the p-value for data height Sarawak is 0.03, which is smaller than 0.05. Thus the data is not normally distributed. The p-value for height Sabah is 0.04153, also smaller than 0.05. This is mean that this data is not normally distributed. On the other hand, p-value for height Terengganu is 0.09855, which are more than 0.05. It means that this data is normally distributed. The data of height Terengganu student is normally distributed. And this is the living test to test the variance among the group. So from this test, we can see that the p-value is 0.8196, which are more than 0.05. So that the data is homogeneity Next, this is the result for one-way ANOVA test that I have done in RStudio. This is the test for critical test. Also, I have done the Turkey test, which is post hoc test for this data. So the conclusion from this test, the p-value of ANOVA test is smaller than 0.05, which is 5.6x 5.68 exponent negative 5 is smaller than 0.05. Thus, the null hypothesis is not rejected. Therefore, there is no interaction of state from on-body height meter of female UMS students. From result post hoc test, there is no interaction among treatment because the p-value is smaller than 0.05 respectively. We can see that here the interaction between groups Sarawak and Sabah is 0.03399968, which is smaller than 0.05. The p-value for Terengganu Sabah is 0.0080247 is smaller than 0.05, and the p-value for group Terengganu Sarawak is 0.0000381 is smaller than 0.05. So it shows that there is no interaction among treatment groups because the p-value is smaller than 0.05 respectively. From the critical values test, the null hypothesis is not rejected due to the p-value is smaller than 0.05 also, which is the p-value is 0.001218 smaller than 0.05. So now I will show you the command for the RStudio. So this is the command for the RStudio. I have set this data as ftest5, and I have set SW Sarawak, SB Sabah, and TJ Terengganu groups as subsets from this ftest5 data, and I have done Shapiro test for normality test for each group subset, and I have done Levin test for this data also between height and states, and this is the command for box plots, and this is the command to do ANOVA test. This is the summary. This is the summary for ANOVA test. As we can see here, the p-value is 5.68 exponent negative 0.5, which means the p-value is near to 0. Thus, it shows that the p-value is smaller than 0.05. Then I have done the key test post hoc test, and I have set the confidence level 0.95, which means 0.05, and I have test critical test for critical values test, and this is the box plot for this data. So that's all from me. Thank you.